Is working overtime right now. Haven't got the patch yet, but driving is good. So, I wish I had Victor's energy, but what you get is just this. So, I might pull a hip or a hamstring or something. I'm jumping around. But, so the team wanted me to come out and tell you a little bit about my journey and how I got here. I know a few of you have heard my story, but I'm not going to go all the way back to when I was born. That's a hot minute ago. 66, great year, but a long time ago. And but I remember we got my beautiful wife and I, Trish, over here. Victor's 37. We're going on 36 years marriage. And so I didn't agree with anything Victor was saying, so because Trish was sitting right next to me. And but I remember in 1989 I was working at a golf course in Utah, and it snowed. And when it snows and you're working for a city-owned course, you have to get unemployment. So you still have a job, kind of, but you get unemployment. And so we were making our own sandwiches and playing cards in the pro shop. And my new wife, she said, "You need to go find a real job, not just playing cards and eating sandwiches." And so I interviewed at this little tiny place. And before I got home, they called my house, and Trish answered, and they said that we'd like to offer Alec a job. And she said, "He'll be there first thing tomorrow." And so I got home and I found out that, hey, I got a new job. And so I went to show up to work the next morning, and do you know what black ice is?
Yeah.
Black ice. I went to turn in front of the building, and I went, instead of going around the building, I had some black ice, went over a curb, onto the front lawn, and I ran over a little tree. So here I am sitting in my car. I don't want to get out and say, "Hey, I'm the new guy." And so I decided to do a tree hit and run. So I took off, and my car got high-centered on 12 inches of concrete, a curb. Then I had to get out and say, "Hey, I'm the new guy. Just tore up your tree, the lawn." But you know what? I stayed at that company for 12 years. And I am grateful for 12 inches of concrete, because that was a small network marketing company. I was going to be a basketball coach. I was going to school to be a basketball coach. I never became a basketball coach other than my kids. But so what 12 inches of concrete in your life has got you here? There's no consequences while you're here. It's been mentioned a couple times today. You're here for a reason, correct?
Yeah.
You're here. Yeah. That 12 inches had me stay there for 12 years, and I fell in love with this industry. You've heard Tarla and I say many times that we love this industry. This is the best industry in the world. You heard Gene today earlier say that we are never going to deviate from it. Other companies that go affiliate, we will not go affiliate. We love this industry. We love it. And so I'm grateful for 12 inches of concrete to stay there. After 12 years, I went to another company, and that lasted for about 5 years. Then I went to another company. I'm trying to take my hour story and condense it, so you can get the Cliff Notes later. And so I'm at this other company, and doing what I'm loving, and recognizing people, and giving away swag, and doing some marketing efforts. And I'll never forget, I got an email on a Wednesday that said 80 people are going to be downsized on Friday. And I went to my friend's office and I said, "Man, I feel sorry for those 80 people." And on Friday, guess what happened?
You were one of the 80.
My boss came in with a big envelope that had my name on it, and for the first time in my life, I was downsized. I was told that I was no good. I was told they didn't need me anymore. So I learned really quickly, don't let someone dictate who you are or what you can become. You remember that? You're special. And so I remember driving home, listening to Josh Groban, "You Can Raise Me Up." I cried all the way home. I'm a crier, if you don't know that, but I cry in the voice before the chair turns around. I am just cheering, "Turn around!" And then it turns around and you get all teary-eyed. It's good. And so, I got home and my beautiful wife, I told her what happened, and she said, "You know what? There's something better out there for us." And so, just like in this business, in the Plexus business, we all need a support. We need someone to support us, correct?
Yeah.
If you don't have someone you're running with, find someone to run with, because they will change your life and help you going forward forever. So she was great. We were trying to make ends meet. When you had my skills, I was consulting and doing some things. And I'll never forget, one day she came to me and she said, "Hey, we need to start cutting some things." I said, "Whoa." She goes, "We need to cut ESPN and cable." I go, "Whoa, what?" We can't cut cable. So I joke nowadays. I say I got down on one knee to propose, and I got down on two knees to save ESPN. And it worked. We kept it. But I'll never forget that. You've heard me say many times, if you're blessed, be a blessing. We were always ones that gave. And so, but sometimes you got to be on the other side of that. And you got to be able to be that person that loses your pride and receives. I'll never forget that a few days before Christmas that year, we received a package on our porch with gifts and food and everything. It made us literally cry with our boys. But we were able to lose the pride and accept someone's help. And so if you're in that position, if you're in the position to give, please give. But if you're not, let others give, because that makes a big difference. Can you do that? Because you got to let other people believe that. So I'm sitting there one day, and I get a phone call from Alfred Pedersen, and who I knew for a long time. And he said he's working with. He said he wanted me to invest in some things overseas, and I said, "Well, now's not the best time. We're just trying to get back on our feet." And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, we're starting this little company called Plexus with Tara Robinson." And I go, "Good luck with that," and I hung up. And Trish, being my manager, she said, "You're consulting. Did you ask me if they needed any help?" And I said, "No, but I'll call them right back." So I called them back, and later that week, I was sitting in with Tara and Alfred, and I knew that we had something special at Plexus. I just found an email a few weeks ago that from that very first interaction I had with Charles. I met Charles' mom and okay, there you go. I used to look good, that young picture over there. And but I remember I met Charles' mom and his stepdad years ago at another company, and I met Charles for the first time when he was 16 or 17 years old. And so I knew who Charles was. He knew who I was. But I found an email the other day that they asked me to come down and visit with them. And the email said basically this: "Hey Charles, thank you for the invitation, but I don't have enough money for the ticket down there." And Charles sent back and said, "Hey, no problem. We'll cover you to get down here." And so you got to receive, right? You got to receive. That one meeting changed my whole life, my family's life, for good. Charles has been a great friend. He's truly one of those individuals that I call my friend. We get on stage, and even now today, it's like we've never stepped away from each other. And I have so many. I could take a whole 2 hours talking about the stuff that Tara Robinson and I have experienced in our lives at Plexus. But I remember sitting we were in New Orleans. We had our first 3 conventions in New Orleans. First 3. That's where we had the only people. Wasn't it? Sheila, I remember sitting and we were talking about if the venue was going to work out. I was sitting in the back of the room with Sheila Medina, Coach Cuevas, Patty Cuevas, Deborah Lawson, and Jerry Lawson. And we were sitting there, and I remember looking at them saying that if these are our leaders, current leaders, our future is bright.
Yes. Yes.
Very bright. Very bright. And so we had the first convention. 248 people came to that convention. It was whopping, big. I remember looking at Charles saying, "Man, I hope we get bigger than this." And then as Victor said, we had 1,000 people the next year, 3,000 the next year. And now we fill up auditoriums on a cruise ship that nobody in this industry is letting their ambassadors come on a whole cruise ship. Nobody. When you're talking to other companies and they're saying that they're so great, just flash a picture of the celebrity cruise ship.
Yeah.
And say, We're getting more at our Rising Leaders Retreat than you are getting at your annual convention. That is what's happening. So, in closing, it's not by accident why we end up where we are at. We're all in the spot that we're supposed to be here. So I'm a little dry mouth and I'm going everywhere. So, but it's not a coincidence why you're here. So remember that. Remember to have belief. Without belief, it's hard to go forward and move forward. You're going to hear from some amazing people to end today. But I wanted to take a second and thank you all for being part of my extended family. That's truly how I feel. You're my extended family. And when we promoted Gene Tips to be our CEO, we had a few people we were looking at, and some days the other person was up, next day he was up, they were up, he was up. I think we made the right decision in choosing Gene Tips as our CEO. He cares about Plexus. People used to ask Charlie what keeps you up at night. Not a lot kept us up at night, but we worried about if someone had the ambassadors' backs the same as we had. And I got to tell you that Gene has it. He loves you. He has your back, and he's going to do the best for you. So, okay, I get the privilege of introducing. Sometimes we've always said if we stay humble and